Welcome to She Loves the Grid, where we discuss all things F1. All right, here we are, race number 2 down. Welcome back to She Loves the Grid. Hello, Diane.
Hello, Claire. Welcome.
I can't believe it, or I can't believe we're 2 races in, and this year already feels like it's been like 6 months in. I'm exhausted.
Gosh, I mean, we just said too right before we started recording, I'm like, how it seems like the race was 2 weeks ago. It was yesterday because we record on Sundays. It seems like it was 2 weeks ago. The stuff that happened earlier this week seems like 2 months ago. There is just so much going on. It's insane.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't put my finger on it. Why it's so crazy? I don't remember being this crazy at the beginning of last year.
It wasn't. If we think about it, and I was trying to explain this to somebody the other day, my sister-in-law yesterday, because she had heard about the Christian Horner thing. She has no interest in F1, does not follow F1 in any way, shape, or form. So it's obviously hitting kind of some mainstream stuff, right? And we watch Bravo, and so we have like a little group chat about Bravo, and there's a lot of scandals around housewives and whatever. And I said, between Bravo and F1, like everything is on fire. and so she was asking me yesterday, well, what's going on with F1? And I said, I don't even know where to begin. Since the beginning of December, it's been one scandal after another, one investigation after another, and it just kept coming. This week we added a new one and escalated one that's been going for a few weeks now. So,
And then all kinds of other rumors going around too, or innuendos and whatnot. It is just Red Bull's a hot mess right now.
Oh, I know. Should we jump in with them? Like just what's happening with them?
Why not?
Let's just do it. So, okay, let's just talk about the internal drama. I do feel like there is a civil war going on, and I saw a meme about this. There's two owners. If you have never delved into Red Bull, there's two owners. There's a Thai owner that has 51% of the team, and then you have the owner in Austria whose dad started the team, passed away a year ago last October. They have 49% of the team. And it definitely seems like there's two different factions, right? Like you've got aligning with the Austria owner is Max's dad, Marco, that group over there. Aligning with the Thai owners seems to be Christian Horner. And since they have 51%, they're very much in his corner. And I don't think corner. I don't think that they are going to get rid of him. And so you've got all of this internal stuff happening. What came out this weekend was they think that Helmut Marko, who we call Chatty Cathy on this website on this podcast, we coined that term last year because he just loves to talk. So he's actually being blamed for leaking those WhatsApp messages, which, as you were saying last week, Claire, like it has to be somebody internal, right? It has to be somebody internal. We were guessing maybe like Joss Verstappen or somebody who would have access to that information and then also had access to all of the emails that it went to. That was your point last week, was like it went to all of these emails. How are you going to find all of that? So it kind of does make sense that Helmut might have been the person to leak it, especially if he's on this side of the Civil War. So Red Bull told him, no more talking to the media. We're going to do an investigation next week. So this coming week, they're going to do an investigation. No more talking to the media. Well, our beloved Chatty Cathy is the one that revealed to the media that he may be suspended by the team. Because why not? That's what he does. He's a chatty person, and he went straight to ORF, or I think it's ORF. I don't know if they say ORF, but that's an Austrian media outlet. And he actually gave them questions. You need to be asking me these questions so that he could in turn answer them. So he might be in his 80s, but he apparently is he's really thinking about things. So he announced that, revealed that. Then I think before the race yesterday, he spoke out again and confirmed that he spoke with the Austrian majority owner and that he will be continuing. Marco will be continuing with the team, but there needs to be calm in the team. Meanwhile, when all of this is coming out that Marco might be suspended, Max comes out and says that Marco has to stay. He's only staying if Marco stays. So Marco goes, Max goes. I'm assuming at the end of the year, but that's what was happening. Joss, who was not in Saudi Arabia, and it wasn't because he was banned. He was at a rally race. He gets asked some questions. And so he's still talking to the press and saying that, like, the press conference with the principals was all about Horner and his problems when they should be talking about Max and the car and the race and the performance of the car and da 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 da. And he was apparently asked about the assistant that was put on leave or suspended or whatever the situation is. The day before International Women's Day, it came out that she was put on leave. So he apparently was asked about that. He said, I don't know what's up with the assistant, but it's up to her to come out and then see what happens. And then he added, it's too late for Horner to say, leave me alone, because that's basically what Christian did in the principal press conference. And Joss also said but Christian has the support of the Thai owner, so he thinks that he will be there the rest of the season. So you've got different people speaking out. You've got a whole slew of fans asking for transparency on what they found. One thing that people seem to be pointing out a lot is, like, he was cleared of an external investigation. It was impartial. Well, no, who paid for the external person? Red Bull.
And how impartial was it when, and who did the investigation? That's
Right.
what it's like. Was it from an FIA person? Was it, and we know what's going on now with FIA and some of the potential corruption there? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
There's a lot happening. And earlier this week, there were reports that Ford was looking at the contract to see if they could get out of it, because they don't want any part of what's happening. And it does seem like Horner is kind of doubling down on, Jerry was at the race again yesterday, and he posted Mother's Day, and left the comments open, which is just blowing up with people like, okay, you cheated on your first wife or long-term girlfriend, whatever that situation is. You've cheated on Jerry. Like, there's just so much happening there. How are they even getting anything done? But yeah, Horner just seems to be doubling down on nope, it's done. We need to draw a line underneath this and be done with it. But I don't think that with the two camps, that's not going to happen. People are still talking.
No, it's
still talking.
It's going to eventually erode away. If this keeps going and they can't get this cleared up and whatnot, the cancer is going to grow, right? And it's going to erode away, and it's going to tension and whatnot. It's going to cause people to not be able to perform at their best.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, I don't know when he said this, but recently he said, Christian Horner said, there's no one person that's greater than the team.
Yeah.
Supposedly that was in regards to Max. I don't know, maybe if he was saying about himself. That's the quote I saw. I need to go back and find the context. But my thought is, if you're kind of saying that about Max, who you're kind of replying to Max saying, I'm going to leave if Marco doesn't stay. I think Christian puts himself like here.
Oh yeah, because he said like he was the only one that keep it the other. Yeah, I totally agree. It's like he's not going to apply it to himself.
Yeah,
for sure.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're still dominating at the front. I don't think I don't remember a whole lot of coverage of them during the race, except when like Checo passed Charles like very early on, but I don't remember a whole lot. So, if we're focusing on the teams in the midfield and the back, then we're all going to focus on your off track issues, because they're serious and people want answers, and you guys are now all fighting amongst yourselves, and it cannot be a good environment. I do agree with Joss on that. Joss is but that I do agree.
Makes you wonder what next year's Netflix series is going to look like.
they're going to need more than 10 episodes or whatever they give us. Like, they need more than that when we don't have a season like this. I wonder, because you know how Max and Checo did not participate, but Christian was all over that. Will we see Red Bull saying, no, thank you, we're not participating?
That's
No,
a good point.
thank you. Because we know they left out a whole lot of stuff last year, not just about Red Bull, but like a whole lot of stuff. So they might just pretend it never happened.
Maybe.
That's reality TV for you. So let's talk about the FIA scandal.
Just so much tea this year.
So much. So if you're not up on the tea, there is an investigation now underway into the FIA president, Mohammed bin Saliem. I don't know how to say his last name. I'm so sorry. I feel so bad about that, actually. Anyways, Mohammed, the FIA president, for allegedly interfering with a race result. The whistleblower came forward to their ethics committee and filed this apparently this week. So they were talking about the 2023 Saudi Arabia GP, where Fernando got his 100th podium. So this, Claire and I were talking about this. I'm like, you know what this could have been? That it was Fernando's 100th podium. He got his trophy on the podium. Then after the race, they took it away and gave it to George. Then after that, they reinstated Fernando. And so there was the whole cute video of George, you know, and Mercedes driving the trophy back to the Aston Martin, you know, facility in England. And it was all very cute and whatever. That is what they were talking about. So Mohammed, after the race, and after Fernando got his trophy and was given the penalty, Mohammed called the FIA VP who was at the race, and he made it clear that he thought the penalty should be removed. So that's probably when they were like, okay, never mind. We're gonna take that away. It's also alleged in the whistleblower's report that he told the FIA not to certify the Las Vegas track. I know it was obviously before the race. I don't know if that came after the drain incident with Carlos's car or if it was even before that. If it's a drain incident, maybe like it still seems like a knee-jerk like response. But I don't know. So there's already a kind of like a little history with Mohammed. He's stuck his nose in different places. F1 has not. They actually did a cease and desist with him about one thing. So it seems like there's a lot more maybe going on behind the scenes. But I also am concerned that we have the FIA doing an internal investigation about their own president, who has a lot of power, who has a lot of clout. That just to me seems weird. And all week I kept saying to Claire, like, what is F1 saying about this? They're very quiet about everything. I don't think I've heard them say anything about the Christian Horner situation. I don't think I've heard them say anything. So I did yesterday look up, and their response to this allegation with the FIA president is the F1 team bosses cautioned. I want to make team bosses threw me off for a second. I don't think it's the teams. I think it's the F1 leadership cautioned against the governing body president being judged before all the facts have come to light. So that's like a non-statement, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's kind of the hauling out the innocent before proving guilty kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I wonder? The FIA governs more than just F1.
Yes, they govern all motorsports.
I wonder what's going on in the other motorsports. Are there some oddities happening there? Are there issues? Are there any kind of undue influence happening? Any other kind of allegations? Is it more than just with F1?
Right. It's a good question. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say all motorsports. I said all. I don't think that's necessarily true because I don't know that like NASCAR is wrapped up with the FIA, but I don't know. We'll have to look that up, to be honest with you. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if he's more invested in Formula One. There's a lot of money in that sport for sure. more so than maybe like, a rally race or, Moto GP. I have no idea, but it does make you wonder. I just feel like I saw some comments this week of people saying, what is going on with this sport? I feel like we've said that what the F1 is happening in this sport, and especially around the Horner situation. You have a lot of women who have come into this sport that are passionate about it. They're not into it just for the drivers or whatever. They're harassed a lot in the comments at races, different races, not every race, but different races. They haven't really been acknowledged by a lot of the teams in, like, from a principal standpoint. There's a lot of women that are like, do I want to get more involved in the sport? There's people that were not happy with the way the drivers answered questions about the Christian Horner situation. I don't think they necessarily should be, asked questions about that. They don't know what all the info is. But there's a lot of questions about alienating fans at this point, and the more stuff that keeps piling on even outside of the internal stuff that's happening, internal yet also important externally at Red Bull. Now you've got the FIA making race decisions. Like, what is happening? What is happening?
And then it was just the questionable calls from the stewards this week didn't make it any better.
No. And we are going to talk about that. Oh my gosh, we're going to talk about that.
Oh my gosh.
You're 100% spot on. Well, do you want to talk really quick about track limits? Because I think that's all the scandal info we have for you. This week.
Because I compared the report. So there's a race director's event notes and report that they send out, when they go at the beginning, and they talk about a lot of the commentators when you watch the races, where they're like, oh, the drivers have been reviewed. They talk about the track limits. And so they know, all the drivers know before they get out where the track limits are.
Yes.
And this is new for this year, because this definitely was not in the report last year. This is going into the pit lane, this line, any tire, any part of the car goes over this line. It was track limits.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy. They actually took out some stuff I saw in F1 Academy and F2. Like, this impacted all the races this weekend, like in quali and everything. So it wasn't as prevalent because people caught on pretty quickly, but definitely being new, I thought this was pretty interesting. And for them to call it out so big and bold in their documentation as well.
Yeah, definitely. I know for sure in the women's qualifying, there was one driver, she ended up, third, I think, on the podium, both races, but we'll talk about the second race. But she kept going over that line. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what are you doing? She wasn't the only one. It was happening in, like you said, in F1 and F2. But yeah, that was tricky to begin with, for sure.
Yeah, I thought that was just pretty interesting, and to have that visual for us this time, and so clear, and to see the driver's document. I've never reached and dug into that before. It's interesting to go through the race director's events notes and see all the things that they talk about, the timing, the measures that they do, and so that was fascinating to read through it and compare last year's to this year's.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty cool. And it's interesting that they did change it from last year. So they must have saw that was happening a lot. And they're like, nope.
It'd be such a hard and fast rule, like not one tire over the line. Like, wow, it's like super, super safe right there.
Yeah. Very, 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 very interesting, to say the least. So this week, as far as like upgrades, Perez did change his power unit sometime before the race. I don't think it was between quali and the race. So I think maybe it happened during practice, but I thought that was kind of interesting. But the other thing I found interesting was that the V-Carb team, the Red Bull RB V-Carb, I don't know, whatever. I still haven't landed on a name for them.
I like V-Carb.
V-Carb. All right, I'm going to stick with V-Carb. They also brought an upgrade. It didn't really show in the race. And they said it was like not major, but it's a step like in the aerodynamic design that they've been working on since, I think, towards the end of last year. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then actually Ocon completing this race, he is now one of the 50 most experienced drivers in F1. So there you
That's
go.
an odd stat because he
Right?
seems so young.
Yeah. I think they start younger and younger now. I mean, look at Ollie this weekend, which, we're going to talk about Ollie.
Ollie.
Yes.
We have to call this one the Ollie. Ollie.
Oh, we should call it Ollie. Oh, Ollie. Wait till we get to that. That is my story of the day. I'm still so proud of him. My brother-in-law texted me this morning because he always watches the race later, and he said something about that. I'm like, I've been watching him since last year. Okay, F1 Academy. Oh my gosh, the first round, the ladies are on the grid.
So awesome. It was so much fun to watch the race and watch the practice. It was so cool.
It's different, and so getting used to it, I think, is cool. The thing that I was watching for, and I really wasn't let down by, I think, the majority of the teams, is they basically had the same race weekend experience as the guys. Like the teams that have a driver, so the 10 F1 male teams have a car in F1 Academy. They have a driver, and they were incorporating the women in their social media this week with their other drivers. They were, congratulating them. They were posting about them. I thought that was amazing. They had them in the fan zone. So the fan zone at every race, the drivers come and they talk to the crowd, and they had the women out there doing that. I love that they gave them the full experience. You're doing what the guys do. Because I don't think that the F2 drivers are doing that. I don't think I've ever seen the F2 drivers at a fan zone. And they have their own, like, you have to follow Prema and, those teams to see maybe sometimes if their academy driver does well, they will post something. Lewis Hamilton was at the race, the second race, and Mercedes, that driver, well, she won one race and won another, but we'll talk about that in a second. But I love that James Vowles was down there to cheer on Leah Block. Like, I just thought that was great.
I love the support. I love the people, the support. And I mean, the race itself was great. The practice was great. I love watching them perform.
Yes.
But then all the ancillary stuff around it, it was amazing.
Because
and I've got the stats on it.
Oh, good. Wait, before you go to that, like I agree. Like just incorporating them into it. That's how like men's and women's sports should be. Like it shouldn't be men's sports, women's sports. It shouldn't be, men's team, women's. Like I don't know. These are F1 drivers. This is our F1 Academy drivers. Did you notice their intro? They have an intro just like the men do, and it's way better. It's way, way, way better. There's more movement. It's brighter. They're showing personality. Whereas the men this year are just like, what do they call that? Blue steel. Make those faces.
They're trying to be suave, and there's only a couple of drivers on that team that've got natural swagger that can pull it off. So
agreed. But if you didn't get to watch the women's intro, watch it. I loved it. I was like, wait, what is happening here? This is amazing. And again, like that's another thing where it's like, love that they did that.
I know. I love that they're putting in the effort. I love that they posted you'll see I've got the top 10. They're not doing all of the same things as F1, but they're doing these graphics and whatnot that we can pull and celebrate in their style. I just love it. They're branding them. That's important.
Yes, it's very important. Very, very important. Okay, let's talk about quali really quick because it's different. They don't do stages like the men do, right? It's 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes. You get out there and you just do the best you can. Like, however you want to set that up, go into the pits, change your tires, whatever. Like, you've got 30 minutes to give us your best.
And your best 2 times.
What's that?
Here's your best 2 times.
Yeah. So, do you know how that works?
Yeah. So they take your best. They take their times, and they basically they go through your drivers, and it's your top times go into the first race, and then that gets out. They take that out of the list, and then they rank you again, and then it's just your top times go into the second race. So that's how you get ranked in there.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. It took me a minute. Like, I'm glad you explained it because it did take me a second to figure out. Like, because I'm looking at the leaderboard. And so I'm thinking, okay, this person, should be first, but then the second fastest time that I'm seeing on the leaderboard is Abby pulling. So I think Abby should be starting on pole for the second race. No, it's what you just said. Like, it's all the times. So
and that's why I like to explain that. I'll try to work on a graphic later on about that, maybe if we ever blog stuff, because you take them, everybody's all mixed in, and they take that top 10, one for each person, they pull it out. Yeah. And what's left, they resort with the top 10 again. And now we look at it again, right? And it's what's left kind of thing.
I think that's so interesting. I do like that it's different than the guys. Like 30 minutes, get out. This is how we're doing your times.
Well, I think it's cool too, because if you are consistently up there, you are going to have pole both places. But that means that person who maybe, gets it really good one good time, it maybe not consistently, they have a chance, right? Because you could have if you get them all together, the person's pole's 1 and 3, and you've got 2 and 4. So that means you've got pole on the second race. So the fastest. So I think it's cool. I think it's just different odds on who gets some pole.
Yeah.
But it's still going to reward the fastest driver. So it's not unfair either.
Right. I think that's so cool. I cannot wait. The one thing that was driving me nuts during qualifying is the commentators did not seem to know which Al Kubasi sister was which. Like, they were confusing me because they're both in like a Red Bull branded type car. I think one is the V Carb and one is Red Bull. And then there's a Red Bull Ford driver. So there's like a third. And on the thing, like, I swear the male commentator kept saying, oh, that's this sister. That's, Hamna. And it's like, no, wait a second. That she doesn't drive that car. So towards the end of qualifying, they got a little bit better, but I'm like, you gotta figure that out. You gotta figure that out. But double pole initially was Dorian Pa. They say on the commentator just say Pa, but it's spelled Pin. Pa.
Yeah.
It's French, I'm guessing. So she did win the first race. So she won, Abby pulling, and then Maya. How do you say that? Vug?
I think it's Vug.
Vug? That makes sense. Vug was third. So that's how they started too. But yeah. And then
I'm still trying to understand the penalty.
Yes. So the penalty, in the second race, it was the same 1, 2, 3 finish. The podium was Dorian, and then Abby was second, and Maya was third. However, after the race, they said that Abby moved into first. Dorian was given a 20-second penalty for taking the checkered flag twice. So what happened was she went through. There's a lot of stuff online about this. She went through. Some people are saying the checkered flag, whoever was supposed to be waving it, was very low. She didn't see it. Apparently her team maybe didn't notify her. So she was going around at top speed again. She didn't realize the race was finished. So that's very dangerous because you might have marshals out on track. You might have cars that are like just puttering along at that point because the cars slow down after that, right? And so she went around again and came through the checkered flag again. Some people are saying like, that's not fair, but the rules are you are supposed to be watching for the flags. They're all around. I don't know. I'm assuming the checkered flag is at other parts of the track. I don't know, but that
the lights turn a color when the flag color is waved. So there is a color for the lights for a checkered flag.
Yeah. So people are like, no, she should have seen it. Like, you can't rely on your team radio. Yes, maybe the checkered flag person did not have the flag where they needed to be, but you should also be aware, like even before the first lap. So that's what happened. So she got a 20-second penalty. I think you have the stats on maybe where she ended up after that 20-second penalty.
Yeah. So this is the first race on the left, second race on the right. So she ended up P9.
Okay. And if you want to see the stuff, go to our YouTube page. You can see it. Yes. Okay. So she ended up P9. Wow. 20 seconds and she was down at 9th. Okay. Nice.
Yeah. And then I have their standing. So this is the first race, the race 1 and race 2. and then they get this saying they do points. So that puts she's in third place for overall points.
Okay.
Just a point behind Maya, and then you can see the teams how they're ranking up. So
Okay.
Prema's got 73 points.
Prema. Hey, listen, you know what though? Like Abby does race for Alpine. Alpine's got some winners there.
There you go.
We can't rely on the men's team to so we got Abby. Hooray! Well, good for them. Like I think it seemed like it was a really successful first race for them. And
yeah, I think so.
I love to Susie Wolf mentioned this. So they are on the calendar with the men. Is it 6 races, seven races this year?
Seven, I think it is.
Racing on International Women's Day in a country where women couldn't even drive 6 years ago.
I know.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Right? Like talk about making progress. I love it. So I think you told me they race again in May is the next race.
May is the next race.
Okay. So we've got a little bit of a gap, but that's okay. Maybe next week we should talk about how they do it.
And then the one after that will be Barcelona.
Oh, so excited.
We'll get to be live.
I can't wait to watch them. Oh my goodness. Okay. Moving on to the men's F1. Okay. I don't know. I don't have a whole lot to say necessarily about practice. People were talking about until we get to FP3, but a lot of drivers were complaining about bouncing, porpoising. That was a lot of different drivers. So I don't know. But let's talk about Carlos because this is like where things really started to go downhill. FP1, he showed up a half hour before practice started. Like just not looking awesome. And then as you know, FP3, I woke up that morning to a text from Claire that said, Carlos is out.
I sent the article. Yeah, I sent the article, and then I'm like, and I posted.
Which thank God, because I was awake hours later. But I couldn't believe it. Like that was not on my bingo card. Him having appendicitis and then having to have surgery. Look at him, poor baby in the bed. You know what's so funny? The other picture that goes along with this one. So what we're showing, if you're not on our YouTube, is Carlos in his hospital bed and his dad's on the phone. There's a picture of his dad in his hospital bed way back in the day and his dad on the phone. So they kind of recreated that picture. But here's the thing. So I went to bed Thursday night, right? Because that was Friday. Thursday night, went to bed. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with Carlos? Like, this is so weird. And it's not like him. And he left like right away, did not go to the media day on Wednesday. And I'm like, what is happening? And I thought, well, surely he'll be at the race. But what happens if he doesn't get to the race tomorrow? And then I was like, Ollie's the reserve driver. Oh my gosh. But then I fell asleep and didn't think anything about it till I woke up in the morning. So yes, Ollie Behrman, you all know, I've been talking about Ollie since last year. I was so excited to see him race in Barcelona. I talked about him when he jumped in the car towards the end of last season for Haas and was doing FP practice, free practice. And I've been on his hype train for a year. And now everybody gets to know why I have been talking about Ollie. But can you believe it? He's the youngest Ferrari driver ever. He's 18 years old. He's the third youngest driver in F1. It goes Max, then Lance only beats him by a few months. And then Ollie, he's 18 years old. He was supposed to be on pole for F2, the F2 race. So a little bounce back. We talked about him last week. Prema did not do great. So yeah, even last week, people, we were talking about Ollie. Get on board with us because we know what we're looking for. Talked about him last week, bounce back this week with pole in F2. Find out 5 hours before practice, FP3 starts, that he is going to be jumping into the Ferrari storied car, right? Storied brand, and he has 1 hour of practice. And I don't think he even got the full hour, right? Like they had a little bit of a delay.
Yeah, because they were getting that. Yeah, they were still getting the seat changed out because they had to change out the seat, the pedals, and get the car. They didn't have time to change the nameplate above.
No.
You know, they were still getting the sticker changed on to get his car number, like all of that. They did not have enough time to get the car fully ready. So that's what they were doing. It was a little bit of a delay from starting just because they were getting the seat and the pedals and everything and the timing and whatnot set, at least for him to be able to get out there and get a run.
It's crazy. And then like Joe had his little incident, you know, like there was that happened.
His crew, that was like a Herculean effort. I kept saying that, like they are so close, and they just 60 seconds. If they had 60 seconds more, Joe would have had one track time. I mean, he probably still would have ended up maybe P20, but that's amazing.
I mean, and that was a hit. Like he hit that wall so bad. So if you weren't watching FP3 towards the end, like 17 minutes left, Joe goes right into the wall. They literally deployed the medical car because the G's that he hit the wall with is like, they have, you know, I don't know, like, I don't want to say rankings, but if you hit and it's your car's going a certain number of G's, the medical cars are automatically deployed and you have to go to the medical tent. You have to go be reviewed. He had gotten out. He said, I'm good, you know, da, 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 da. But like Claire was saying, they had to, his team to get ready for Q1. You only have so many hours. So many hours. So one thing that's a new rule for this year, the teams no longer have to wait for the car to be brought back to the garage before they can start building the spare car. Or, I mean, if they just need to make some changes, they can wait and have the car brought back. But in this situation, that car was not going anywhere. They always have a spare chassis. And before, they used to have to wait for the car to be brought back. At some tracks, that can take time. Like Monaco's one. There's another one that was towards the end of last season where it's just like, it's going to take a minute. It's not getting back to you quickly, which delays the team from getting ready. Now they can go get the chassis and they can start building up the spare car right away. And like Claire said, they got him out the very last 2 minutes. I think there were 2 minutes left in Q1 to get him out. Craziness. What those mechanics do. Holy moly.
That's amazing. Yeah, they were on an out. He was on his out lap. He just didn't have enough to complete a lap before, so there's no time. But they still let him compete on. Yeah, starting from P20. So that was amazing. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And there was a few wall kisses, you know, over the weekend too. You know, up to that because Lance had knocked it during practice, and you know, I think Sargent had a problem with that. I mean, there's some people had some problems with the wall over the week.
Alonso did during the race. I think he just nipped it. Like there were definitely teams that, that's the thing about the street tracks is like they are narrow and those walls. And I heard one of the drivers, I don't remember who it was because I just had the TV on, but they were saying like the walls also seem to move in on you because at one point the wall might be back here, but you go a little further down and it is kind of more in. And so if you're coming around a turn and you like the wall part is over here, but as you get further into the turn, it's closer. Like, so it's tricky.
And that reminds me, I want to say it was Eric and Senna. There's a story of years ago. It was at Monaco that there had been like a wreck and they had gone and, you know, fixed the barriers and then they were going again. And then he wrecked. It's one of the famous drivers. I'll have to go research it, get the name right. Somebody's going to respond and go, no, it was this driver. Anyway, the story is that because they know how wide those ways are, down to the millimeter.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is because the barrier was set back up wrong. Like, no. And they went back and they measured it and they determined that it was off by like, I think 3 millimeters or something like that. And they were right because he was so close and he could time it so well.
Yeah.
To go so close to the wall that when that barrier and the repair got set up wrong, he hit it. Oh. I was like, that is just insane because they talk about how close they get to that wall and whatnot, that's how precision these drivers are, that they can get within millimeters. And if there's any kind of crash, if that thing is not placed back where it needs to be, it can cause issues.
Oh
It,
my God.
it was a fascinating story that I watched.
Wow. That's now I want to go watch. I want to go see what that
I'll
is.
have to find it and send it to you. Then we'll get it posted for readers, listeners, and whatever.
Yes.
It's
Oh my gosh.
engineer in me. I was just like, oh, like this is fascinating.
That's amazing. Well, Piastri was another one that tapped the wall in Q1, but he still ended up with the fastest lap after he tapped the wall. Like, that's pretty impressive. Good job, Oscar. Way to go. These younger drivers, I'm telling you, Ollie in Q1. Oh my God. I was beside myself before qualifying. I'm like, the pressure is on. And I don't think people realize, maybe you do, I don't know, how different getting in an F1 car is compared to an F2 car. The F1 cars are heavier, they're bigger, the G forces is more. Like it takes a second to get in. And he's been on the track, he secured pole in F2, but it's a completely different car. So I was like pins and needles heading into Q1. And
They
his
showed,
dad.
when they showed his dad, I'm like, I felt every
Yes.
bit of it. Every
Yeah.
bit of it. I felt it all. And my son has competed at stuff, but never anything to this level of danger. But I felt every ounce of that pride, fear, excitement,
Yes.
just everything, all bundled love, everything just all in one, just that you could feel it exuding through the TV.
Yes, it was amazing I loved that they kept capturing him, because even when he got real close to the wall a couple times and his dad's like, pulling a face, like an eek face, like, oh my gosh, I loved that. And you think too, like there's so much writing on this opportunity. I mean, you're in an F1 car. You need to show, you've got one chance, Bubby, to show them what you can do. That even just that pressure alone, I think could get to somebody. He's 18 years old. 18. Even Lewis was like, I was not ready for F1 at 18 years old, but things are different now. He got in, like, think of even Oscar last year. Oscar's 22. He got so calm, like so collected. Ollie is the same, like amazing. So he did get through, obviously, into Q2, which was great. What I thought was interesting with Q1 is the same 5 people were out as last week. The same 5.
Mm-hmm.
Sargent, Joe, Ocon, Gasly, Bottas, like same 5. I thought that was so interesting. I also was kind of surprised with Alpine because I thought they had done fairly well in practice. I know at one point I texted you during one of the practices and I was like, Alpine's looking kind of good. They're like mid 10, 11, somewhere in there. Nope, they were out in Q1. Out. Crazy out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was there a whole lot else besides, well, Q2, going back to Ollie, because it really is Ollie's weekend. He narrowly missed getting into Q3.
It was so close.
Close.
I was on the edge of my seat for him. I'm just so close. I will have to say is the only thing that is different in quality for me, other than me cheering on Ollie, was that we didn't get a lot of let's go into the pit and wait to the last minute. Everybody was out. Everybody. Even the commentators talked about everybody is out, everybody's pushing, everybody's out there trying to get faster and faster and faster. So it was an exciting quality for me because everybody was out trying, which I appreciate.
Yeah, now that you say that, I think there was only one point where I was like, everybody was in except Ollie and then I think the 2 McLarens. But then everybody came out like very shortly after that.
Yep.
Like very shortly. So yeah, there were 6 teams in Q3 this time instead of our usual 5 because Ollie was out in Q2. So Yuki got into Q3. I'm just going to say Yuki beat Danny again this weekend. They're not looking great. Listen, I don't know that that's a whole lot to like hang your hat on, but he did beat them. And Alonso, I thought it was kind of cool. Alonso towards the end, I think it was his last lap. He used Hamilton for a tow to start, like gets up to speed to get through the starting line. Like, I love him.
Alonso, I think they can just tweak that car a little bit more.
Yes.
Just more improvements. Alonso, he's on it this year. I don't know what last year I don't know if he was filling it all out, but they can get that car just a 10% better, Alonso's he's gonna be something to be reckoned with.
Yeah. And I think both them, like them and McLaren, they're starting off like solid, right? Like it's good. It's good. We're not fighting with the rebels. Nobody's fighting with the rebels. But we've got 22 races still to go. Things are going to change on that car. Hopefully it is an upward trajectory. And like you said, like just that 10% could really pull them up, in the standings. Like, I mean, it's still early days. Like
Stroll not doing stupid crap, but
Stroll. Oh, we're going to talk about that. Okay, let's talk about the race. I'm going to keep going on my Ollie train. Y'all just get on for the ride because he really was the story of the day yesterday. He was our driver of the day yesterday. Very well deserved driver of the day. I thought this was cool. Sebastian Vettel reached out to Ollie before the race. Ollie said that's one of his heroes. He's a former Ferrari driver, right? Like, I love Seb. Can we please replace Christian Horner with Seb? I'm just going to push for that. Like, I absolutely love Seb, and to take that time and to reach out and to do that, I think was really cool. The beginning of the race, Ollie, all in. It was like he's been in Formula One forever. He's dipping his nose in places. He was battling Yuki, and I was a stressed out mess sitting on my couch because I was like, please do not, in the first few laps, crash that car. Please don't. And he didn't. He got past Yuki. I'm going to tell you that. I thought the other thing that was really great, because then he kind of seemed to settle in, right? Like he kind of like chilled out, settled in. With the last 11 laps, he was in 7th place. And I know you were stressed out. Like I was just hanging on for dear life. Just, okay, are we not down another lap? What is happening? He had both Lando and Lewis chasing him on his tail. 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton is behind you. Lando behind you. At one point, Lando was like less than a second back, but it started like then Lando started to drop back even more. I think it was helpful that those two were fighting each other because they couldn't concentrate on like catching up with him. But Ollie was on the radio with the team acting like a pro. How far back? Can they catch me? Asking all the right questions. What do I need to do? And when Lando was getting closer and his engineer said, yeah, it could be like 4 laps. Okay, well, 4 laps would have put him about lap 47 out of 50. Then Ollie sped up. And guess what? He started matching the pace for Alonso and Russell, who were ahead of him. Matching the pace of another 2-time world champion. You're matching the pace. Like he was doing what he needed to do. And I thought like after the race, it kind of reminded me of Oscar last year when he did really well in one of the races. He was so professional and super calm on the radio. So calm. And he was pointing out like things that he wished he would have done better. Like I could have done this. Like he already knew, okay, actually I could have done this better and I would have been, a little bit further ahead. That to me shows like he already has that wherewithal to be on track with these guys. That's incredible.
I think there's some drivers that need to worry about their seats next year.
Did you see Carlos's face after there is a picture out there after Ollie crossed the line and Carlos is like, oops, dang it. That was good. But here's the thing, like he is a Ferrari Academy driver. Ferrari they have Lewis and Charles locked in for multi-year contracts. He's not driving a Ferrari anytime soon. He could go to Haas, which makes me very sad. But at the very least, he would have a seat in Formula One. We know that both Nico and Kevin's contracts are up this year. If I'm Haas, I'm going to be like, yes, we will take him. Thank you very much. And we will hand him back over to you, Ferrari, when Charles or Lewis's contracts are up. At least he would be in F1. That's major. But finishing 7th in your first race, listen, he's got 6 points. Do y'all know he is 10th right now in the World Driver Championship? 10th. The next two closest drivers are Nico and Lance, and they have 1 point. 1 point. Everybody else has 0. 0. He has 0 points in F2, but he's got 6 points in F1. He's 10th. 10th.
That's
That
so
is
awesome.
insane. He had 1 hour of practice. 1 hour of practice, 5 hours notice. Insane. I also thought that it was kind of cool that after the race, both Hamilton and Russell stayed behind to wait for Ollie to get out of his car to congratulate him. I
That's
thought
awesome.
that was really nice. Lewis is a fully great dude. I love him. Like, that's amazing. Ollie did say afterwards, like, his neck hurt, his lower back hurt. Like, if you don't know, F2 races, I think their race is 24 laps. F1 is 50. So big difference in the amount of time you're spending in the car. Because he's the reserve driver, he does have a seat that's fitted to him, but it's excuse me, it's not fully dialed in. So he was saying, like, yes, they have to make some changes to his seat in that car because his lower back, is really hurting. But yeah. Anyways,
One thing he called out during the FP3 was like the neck things. Like he's like that was like bothering him, and the commentator's like, "Oh, after the long race, you're going to see why Carlos likes those there."
exactly. Well, his neck did hurt, and I wonder if they did put in more less padded things, and maybe he did wish he had him back. But pulling those kind of G's and for that long, his body, like his endurance is just not there yet. But now he's got that experience. So that's amazing. Brought home major points for Ferrari. Charles finished in 3rd, and he had the fastest lap. So great day. I think they definitely did all that they could do. Like Claire was showing before, Carlos did show up in the paddock. He was walking very, very slow. And if you saw the video of him, there were 4 guys kind of like they were far away from him, but 2 in front, kind of 2 behind to keep anybody away from him because he just had surgery the day before. I don't know that he should have been there. I think you said it probably was like a laparoscopic.
Yeah, probably laparoscopic.
So, maybe. And he wants to be in the car for Australia. That's a very physical race also. That's 2 weeks from now. So maybe he just was like, I need to get up and get moving. I know after surgeries, they get you up and get you moving more, but like.
Have you noticed he was bloated? That's probably because of laparoscopic, because they blow air into your stomach so they can see everything. And then it takes a little while for your body to absorb it. So if you look at that picture, his belly looked a little bloated.
Oh, I mean, I give him major props for being there. Like he was there the whole time.
That's a lot. I mean, even if it's only 3 incisions, even if it was laparoscopic, it would be 3 incisions for the tools, the camera, and what they're doing. But it's still 3 incisions through your abdomen when it goes through your abdominal wall. And I've had laparoscopic surgery. It's painful because it's your abdominal wall, man. It's going through your core.
You don't realize, how much like you use that. So, I mean, good for him. I hope we do see Carlos in Australia, but Ollie seems to be ready to go if not. So
absolutely,
we will see what happens. Knowing Carlos, he'll probably really try to get in there. Okay, let's talk about the penalties or the lack thereof.
Depending on who you are.
Apparently. So starting at the beginning, Lando. Commentators, George Russell. George was lined up next to Lando. He saw Lando jump the start and he was on the radio because George is a tattletale. And unless it comes to something that he's doing, George is a tattletale and he was on the radio to his engineers. So Lando kind of rolled forward a little bit at the start. Lights are going. You're not supposed to move. That's the rules. You don't move at all until the lights are out. He rolled forward a little bit, but he stopped, but he was ahead of his grid box. So everything I heard, all the commentators are like, how are they not looking into this? Why haven't they said anything yet? And then it came down that they were investigating. And then the steward said, there's no penalty. What we watch, F1 TV, they were beside themselves. Like, how is that not a penalty? Jack Doohan on the after show, who raced in F2 and F3, was like, I didn't know there was a gray area in that rule. But what the stewards said is because the rule is there should be no movement, but the stewards reviewed the positioning, the marshalling system data, the video. They determined that the video did show that car 4 moved before the start signal was given. However, the FIA approved and supplied transponder that is fitted on the car did not indicate a jump start. So that's what they're saying. Hang on, I'm reading Article 48.1A of the Formula One sporting regulations states clearly that the judgment of whether or not there was a jump start is to be made in accordance with the transponder, which did not show a jump start. So in these circumstances, they are not taking further action. There's a lot of people that feel like he got really lucky with that, not getting a penalty. There is precedent with Bottas and Vettel in previous years where they did kind of the same thing and did not get a penalty. So that's where we're at.
Norris is quoted as saying, "I stopped in time. I've never done this before in my life, so I don't know why I've done it. It was investigated and cleared."
Yeah. So no penalty there. But Perez got a penalty. He got a 5-second penalty for an unsafe release into Alonso. After the race, Yuki got a 5-second penalty for unsafe release on Norris. That was even before the race started. That was to go out for the formation, the formation lap. Not the formation. Is it called the formation lap?
Yeah.
It's before they get into formation. And then once they're in the formation, they go around again. So I think that's the formation lap. It's when they were leaving the pits to go out to get the cars on track, and then all the stuff happens on the grid. So that was dangerous. If you saw that, like Norris had to slam on his brakes, and Yuki's pit crew was telling him, don't go. They were saying don't go, but he wasn't paying attention and he pulled out. So that for sure. So he got that after the race, which dropped him down, and we'll talk about V-Carb in a second. But K-Mag got hit with some
so much.
Right? Like really harsh. So let's see. At the beginning, or I guess it was after the red flag, right? K-Mag hit Alex Albon, pushed him into the wall. Both cars got damaged. Kevin thought he had floor damage. It damaged Alex's front wing. Alex was on the team radio immediately. Like, you all need to talk to whoever you need to talk to. Get to the stewards. Like, he left me no room. And he didn't. He did not leave him any room. So Magnussen was hit with a 10-second penalty for that. I know on F1 TV, they were saying that seemed really harsh. Like, why wouldn't that be a 5-second penalty? Both cars are still on track. Both cars have damage. So why wouldn't that be a 5-second penalty? But they gave him 10. Then, a little later, they give him another 10-second penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage, which also seemed harsh because it didn't seem like that big of a deal when you watch it. I mean, okay, you leave the track, but why do you not just say give the place back? That's how we
normal other situations when it's right then and there. They just tell me to give this place back, and that's not 10 seconds. 10 seconds is multiple places.
Yeah, multiple places on top of everything else. So
I think people catch that you didn't pass because of that. Like, just.
And it wasn't like super egregious. Like, it wasn't anything crazy. It was like, oh, that was it? Like, okay. We do know about Kevin Magnussen. Like, he can be a menace on track. He's not going to back down. He will defend till the end. But he was very pivotal, I think, in this race, because not only did he have those penalties, he messed up Alex Albon's race, but he started this DRS train, right? Like from 12th place all the way down to last place. They were all like, do. I mean, he did his job as a teammate to back people up so that Hulkenberg could get that point. So again, pivotal. Overall, like, I was kind of like, And I don't think his team told him about the 20-second penalties. Do you? Because he was racing like he was trying to score points.
No.
Okay. I thought
they don't really talk about that. Did they tell him or whatnot? But at least we never heard that they told him. And
well, he was racing like they didn't tell him. He was racing like he was trying to get points for himself.
Yeah.
But they were running 11th and 12th. That to me was like that race pace way better than last year.
Way better.
Better than last year. And granted, we had 2 cars out at that point. Gasly, who we'll talk about in a second, and Stroll were both out. So you had 18 drivers, but you're still running 11th and 12th. That's pretty good for Haas. Maybe I'll let Ollie drive for them. I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. As if I have a say in Ollie Bierman's career. But but Haas, I don't know. We'll have to see. I mean, I think that Nico's been unlucky in the last 2 races. But, I mean, at least like in qualifying and stuff with the car, just stopping in Q2. He wasn't in Q3, was he? That was Q2. But yeah, I kind of am. Last week we said we were excited to watch them. I am excited to watch them in Australia now. Like, that's pretty good. I mean, Hulkenberg got a point. That's his first point since Australia last year, speaking of Australia. So, we'll see. And Australia was a hot mess last year. And I think the only reason he got points is because 1,000 people were knocked out of the race. But I don't think that was on merit.
This bumper cars.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's talk about your team, Aston Martin.
Yeah, it's like the 2 ends of the spectrum.
Right.
Like I said, Alonso is doing great. I like that car can just get a little tweaked better. I think they're going to do really good this year. Alonso is just kicking butt, and then Stroll. I don't know what he did.
Oh my gosh! Well, he hit the wall. And then he crashed into the other wall on the opposite side. Yep. Lap 7, brought out the red flag. Boom. The funniest thing, though, with that was his engineer saying, "Can you get the car back?" And he was like, "No, I hit the effing wall." Don't you have TVs?
No, that's not going to happen.
That was so funny. I think you're right, though. I'm with you. I would love to. I think they will continue to get better. I hope Lance, I don't know, bad luck, bad driving. I don't know what it is. But Alonso, I mean, what he finished 5th, that's pretty good. He was worried about their overall race pace, but I mean, not bad. Not bad at all. Cannot complain with him. Yeah, because I think it was him, then Russell, then Ollie.
Yeah, he was 5th. He was 5th.
And Oscar was 4th. Like moving on to
and watching that pace, like he was just slowly gaining on Oscar though. So that like those 2 cars, like that's one of those like how many more laps? I think in about 6 or 7 more laps, maybe 10 max. That I think Alonso would have overtaken him. Because the pace was getting there, but.
Well, anyway. I think at one point towards the end, maybe it was in those last few laps, Fernando said, I'm in quali mode now.
Yeah.
And he knows that car on 1 lap pace is really quick. And so he put himself in that mindset. So that may have been.
He was gaining. They kept in the live timing, his lap pace kept staying in green because he was just continuing to slowly improve the gap. Because it was slowly improving, getting smaller and smaller.
That's amazing. Well, I mean, Fernando is kind of a master, so I hope we do see them continue to do well. I think it's good. I'm happy that, like with McLaren, that they're just kind of like they're there. You know what I mean? Like they're there.
You've got
starting better, and maybe not finishing better compared to the first few races last year, but like. You're still there. And that's where you need to be. McLaren, Lando, when the red flag happened, did not come in for tires. And he stayed out on those tires for a long time. He made those tires work. But he finally did his pit stop. I don't even know what that was, but he had a 4.1 second pit stop.
From the world record holders. Because they had a 1.72 or 1.78 or something. It was a world record that they did.
ridiculous. Well, this one was 4.1. He still came out ahead of Hamilton, which was good. But he had to really, really fight with Hamilton, which is what we were saying earlier, is like that didn't allow him to really catch up like he probably could have to Ollie, which is great for, Ollie and Ferrari fans. But again, I think McLaren, like Aston Martin, they're right there, right? They're third in the constructors right now. If they start, going up, that's going to be incredible for them. Really, really good. Williams, on the other hand, they have so much potential and they just keep getting hit with bad luck. Last race, this race, K-Mag. To hear James Vowles after his not press conference, because it's just like him doing his little talk, he was so frustrated. You could hear it in his voice. He's like, that ruined Alex's race. Like, we could have had cars in points, at least one car. He was talking about how Logan was staying right with Alex for the most part. Alex did finish in 11th because of K-Mag's penalties, but just outside the points. But with that damage to the front wing, you're not going to be able to overtake. Like, and James was not happy about how Haas was working and K-Mag was backing everybody up. So, so that's how it works. That's how the game is played, but he was not happy about it. So I'm kind of hoping that in the next few races, we start to see Williams shake off, like stop getting hit by other cars that ruin your race. Like the first race they didn't get hit by a car was just their own systems, but dang it. Come on.
Yeah, they're so close. I mean, I think they've got a lot of good potential to be on the top part of the bottom teams. And they're just like eking it out right there. They're just, like you said, like I don't want to call it bad luck, but that's what it kind of seems to be. It just keeps.
Yeah.
They got to take control of their destiny.
Please. But it's hard when other people are hitting you. Alpine. Like I said, I thought they might do something. The race was not great. Gasly on the formation lap. I think that it was a formation lap. He reported a gearbox issue, actually. And I thought maybe it got figured out by the time he got to his spot on the grid, but it did not. So barely through the first lap, his team's like, box. We cannot go on. So he was out before. I mean, the race did start, but he didn't do but one lap. He didn't even finish one lap.
So I missed that because I was dealing with a power outage and watching on my phone, and I think the power was just coming up, and I was trying to reboot my network and all that, and I missed that. I'm like, look up, because then Stroll crashed, and I'm like, wait a minute, Gasly's out? When did Gasly go out? What did I miss?
Yes. I mean, not a lot. It happened very quickly. I just feel like, again, Ocon did all right. What did he finish? Like 13th or something, maybe 12th or 13th?
Ocon 13th, yeah. A full lap behind.
But at the beginning, so last week we talked about how, their director of aerodynamics and somebody else resigned. Well, this week, at the beginning of the week, a whole bunch of people were let go. So they really are getting departments and starting from scratch at the beginning of the season. And then to have that happen where it's like, ay. And here's my other question, like moving on to Stake F1 team. What was up with Bottas? Why was he in 17th place? He was in last most of the race. Did something happen I missed?
I don't know. I don't know if it's. And then he had a bad pit stop. And at one point, you see, he pitted twice.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he pitted twice.
Oh, because I know that Joe had a really bad pit stop because he was in 12th. So I was like, yeah, Joe, look at you. That's amazing. And he had a horrible pit stop. I don't know how long it was. He was the last one to actually pit because he did not pit at the red flag either. That's the first one when Bottas went in because they would have been double stacked. So they kept him out. He was the last one to pit. And it was so bad that it dropped him from 12th place to 18th place. That's how bad his pit stop was.
Yeah, it was horrible.
But I don't know what was up with Bottas. He was running at the back the entire time. Joe was up towards the middle. So I don't know what was going on there, but goodness gracious, Stake F1 team, y'all need to do some practicing on the pit stops.
Yeah, I don't know what the thing is. And like I said, and then Botas pitting twice. I'm not sure why he did that. He went from new softs to new hards to new softs, but he pitted early in lap 7. And did he get hit? Did he get caught up in anything in lap 7?
Not that I know of, but if he started on softs, did anybody else start on softs? I think, because most people went to hards early on. Most people thought they were going to stop around 20. It's only a 50 lap race, so I don't know. I'm going to have to look into that. But I think that's another team that has a lot of potential that they are just like screwing themselves over.
Yeah.
And then there's the RBV carb team. I'm seriously worried for this team. I don't think we have to worry about them having any of Red Bull's RB19. No. Yuki, again, beating Daniel, but he started in 9th. And then because of his penalty, finished in 13th. So outside the points, he's still ahead of Daniel, but like they were both towards the bottom. Ricardo was running at the bottom pretty much the entire race, I think.
Yeah.
And then he spun himself around because he hit a curb and spun on the last lap. Like, what is happening?
I don't know. And Yuki seemed very proper, if you will.
Yeah, I think he did say this week that he needs to keep some of that under wraps. Oh, Yuki. He does. That was inappropriate last week. You all know I think Yuki is a global treasure, but I'm not mad at him for being upset about the team orders. That I think he has every right to be questioning. I didn't like what happened after the checkered flag. You could have ruined both cars. You were putting both drivers at danger. Like, that was not okay. But I think, for sure there was probably some sort of a conversation. He did get a talk from Helmut Marko. I can tell you that after last week. I don't think you want to have a talk with Helmut Marko.
No.
So he did earn himself that after last week. So probably was like, okay, I need to step up. And let's not forget, like, Franz had a way of dealing with Yuki. Like, he knew how to calm him down, and Franz retired.
Yeah.
Now we got LeBron.
That's a tough one. It's interesting, and I won't go to the driver standards, or we go to the driver standings. We're only showing the top 10, but F1 has them on their full rankings, and they do the teams like you see here. They've got the top 10 teams, and even though Williams, Sauber, Carb, and Alpine all have 0, they still put them in a rank because they put them in a rank based on their performance, right?
Yeah.
The F1 has Danny Rick ranking higher than Yuki, even though they both have 0 points.
Because he finished ahead of Yuki in last week's race when the team orders. So that's what I was saying is, like, it's going to look skewed if you don't know what happened in that first race. They should have switched it back. When Daniel could not pass Magnussen, oh my gosh, he's going to be the Latifi of this year. He should have they should have said, give the place back. It's frustrating. Yeah. But look at McLaren. McLaren's in 3rd in the team standings. That's what I'm saying is, like, you get a team like McLaren who's just kind of like, they're being consistent, and both their drivers are kind of like doing well. And you can see the driver standings. Piastri is 4 points ahead of Norris at this point. But yeah, you get those teams that are just consistent. Look at that. They have 1 or 2 good races. Say Lando actually wins his first F1 race, they'll jump up ahead of Ferrari in the standings. So you just want to keep it close. That's major. Hang on. I was looking to see our leagues because you and I are doing fantasy.
I thought about putting our fantasy rankings in this slide.
I think we need to because we haven't been doing. So we're doing one that's a head-to-head. What? I don't know what that means. Ugh. It's like we're tied for first. There's just two of us. It's a head-to-head. Did we have the same number of points?
I don't know. I'm going to go look.
Ay. That's interesting. Well, you are definitely winning our Parking Lot Friends Classic because I have one team that's second, one team that's third, and one team that's sixth. So you must have first, fourth, and fifth. Damn it.
I do.
I need to go look at my teams. I did not set anything. So, oi.
I can't
Boo.
believe the team that's first. That's shocking. Okay.
I'm going to be so mad if that was one of your auto pick teams.
It was.
Ah.
But I made it speak to it. I did change all the teams this weekend.
Oh, you did? I did not. I probably should. Probably because I have freaking Gasly on one of my teams. I should know better than to pick Alpine drivers for my fantasy team. They screw me up every year, 3 years in a row. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. We don't have a race next week, so that's good because I've got a very busy week. But then the week after that, we've got Australia, which is always a very fun, very eventful race. So next week we'll just chat. We'll talk about Australia because there'll be a lot to talk about to get you ready for that race. Otherwise, yeah, I hope y'all have a great
And
week.
on a happy note for you, you've won both of the races on the head-to-head.
Nice.
So there you go. I knew that would make you happy. You're not competitive.
Yes. I was about to spend a lot of time with my fantasy team this afternoon.
All right. Well, that is it. Thanks for coming along on the ride in our silliness. And we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe and leave a rating and a review. To stay up to date with She Loves the Grid and get all the behind-the-scenes content, you can follow us on Instagram at She Loves the Grid and on Facebook at facebook.com/She Loves the Grid. Thank you for joining us for the ride this week.